There are just three things. Did you know Epstein was a convicted pedophile, Mr. Puri? The answer is yes. Did you contact him and be in touch with him in spite of knowing this? Yes. While you were in touch with him, were you aware of his activities and did you condone them? Yes. There are only three questions to be answered, and the answer to all of them is yes. His position is untenable, Karan. He can bully and bluster and brazen it out, but he is absolutely sick in the mind if he thinks that his position is secure and that he should not resign.
Should the Prime Minister sack Puri?
200%, 200% the Prime Minister should sack him, 200%. He's so shameless, Puri. He's still, the question is, you can't lie. Look at the way he's lying. And these are not lies that I, Mahua Moitra, are saying. You're saying you believe. These are documented. This is the Department of Justice that has released these files. This is not WhatsApp University. This isn't something the opposition made up. This is facts in black and white, open for the world to see.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. My guest today believes Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri should apologize to the nation and resign from the government over his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. She believes Mr. Puri has lied repeatedly and brazenly about his contacts with Epstein. She believes his emails suggest a friendship and intimacy that he has not admitted to. Joining me now to explain her views is the well-known and highly regarded Trinamool Congress MP, Mahua Moitra. Mahua Moitra, in a column that you've written for The Week, you say Hardeep Puri, and I'm quoting you, owes it to the nation to apologize and resign. Can I start by asking, why do you say that?
Karan, when you started this off by saying Mahua Moitra believes, I'm actually going to ask you and everybody else who's watching this show, let's look at this situation objectively. Jeffrey Epstein is a convicted pedophile, and he was convicted in 2008. He was convicted in 2008. He pleaded guilty to 2 state charges. He was given 18 months jail time, of which he served 13 months. He agreed to be on the registered sex offenders list and was released sometime in 2009, and then proceeded to get back to his social networking and rebuild his life. Now, anyone who met him after that as part of his power broking network knew fully well, especially someone like Hardeep Puri, who was living in the exalted New York circles of 2009 to 17, knew fully well who they were dealing with. In 2009, Virginia Giuffre signed, one of the victims filed another lawsuit. In 2011, there was a very public Daily Mail interview in the UK, following which the FBI interviewed Virginia Giuffre, and this was covered in every single media publication in the United States. So first, there is no question of ever believing, whether it's me or anyone, believing that Hardeep Puri did not know. Yes, he knew. So if he knew, then there are two sets of people in the Epstein files. There are those people that have just been referenced to as news items, like the Dalai Lama, like Kapil Sibal, who are not directly involved. And then there are those people who, over a period of time, had intimate contact, direct communication with Jeffrey Epstein, especially banter, especially which meant more than friendship, which proves very clearly that they knew about all his activities from pre-2008 and onwards. They knew that he was a convicted pedophile. They knew that he got his power broking from sexual trafficking and his ability to facilitate that for the rich and the famous. They knew all of that. So, as a fallout of the Epstein files, which were first released in November and then a little after 2 months later, on 30th of January, there was a dump by the Department of Justice of over 3 million files. And we have seen that all the people, especially who are celebrities, who are politicians, who are holding positions of power, who have been named directly in the files as having direct contact with Jeffrey Epstein, due to the fallout in countries across the world, have stepped back from public commitments, have resigned from their positions, and this is across the board. So in the light of that, Hardeep Puri, as a sitting petroleum minister, and we'll get into more later, there is no doubt about the fact that he owes it to the country to immediately resign and to step back from public commitments.
Now, in your article, you say, and once again, I'm quoting you, Puri has lied repeatedly and brazenly about his relationship with Epstein. What are the lies he's told? Can you tell the audience?
You see, the problem with Puri is he's made his case worse. If he had just shut up and been quiet, then there were only 1 or 2 lies in public domain. So when he was asked earlier, he had said, oh, I barely knew him. There are just 1 or 2 emails, and I've met him 3 to 4 times over an 8-year period. Now, 3 of these are all whopping lies, and it's very easy because when you have documented evidence, such as the Department of Justice email, website, library, which anyone can go in and search by name, it's very dangerous to lie like that. But Mr. Puri, like many of his generation, especially in the BJP, believe that everybody else is an idiot. And Mr. Puri especially believes that he has been blessed with extraordinary intelligence way beyond normal people. So when you're that arrogant and you're that brazen, he then proceeded, I don't know on whose advice, to go out and brazen this out, and with blustering arrogance went on about 6 or 7 interviews on national television. And he did this with set up anchors of the Godi media, where even the questions that were asked were very simple questions. But even through those interviews, he said, I met him there, I barely emailed him 1 or 2 times. Hardeep Puri, the name Hardeep Puri is mentioned 430 times in the Epstein files. The name Hardeep Singh Puri is mentioned 163 times. There are 62 emails, 30 from Hardeep to Epstein and 32 from Epstein to Hardeep, in just the ones that we'll be able to see. Now, there are also another 3 million files that are open to members of the Congress. So the 1 to 2 emails is a whopping lie, proven. Second, he says, I met him only 3 to 4 times. That too, always in a delegation and as part of the IPI, which is some kind of, disastrous
it's called the
NGO or
International. It's called
Peace
the
Institute
International
or something
Peace
he was
Institute.
running, which by the way has been disgraced completely, but we'll get to that later. So he says, I met him 3 to 4 times, always in a delegation. Lie. Just between May and June and October 2014, just in that 5-month period, there are 9 documented meetings of them. So the 3 to 4 meetings over an 8-year period is a lie. There are a total of 14 meetings between June 2014 and June 2017. 14 meetings, of which 9 are in a 5-month period alone. He then says, when I went to meet him, I didn't even know where I was going. I mean, how ludicrous is this, Karan? He didn't even know where he was going. This is a retired diplomat. This is a retired diplomat who says he doesn't know where he was going, that he was put in a car, and when he heard the address that was 71st Street, he Googled it and learned it was Epstein's house. And then he told the person who he was with, oh dear, should we be doing this? And, the other person apparently forced him along. Lie, lie, lie. I mean, have some intelligence for the people you're speaking to. Then he says, I met him as part of a delegation. Big, fat, whopping lies. Because most of the meetings that he's set up, can I come across for a coffee? Can I come meet you with a book? Can I do this? Can I do that? All of the meetings, most of them seem to be one-on-one meetings, and most of them, if not all of them, were at Epstein's residence on 71st Street and Madison in Manhattan. So these are just 4 lies. I've got many more, but these are the 4 basic lies that he is repeating and lying about.
In your column, Mahua Moitra, you also draw attention to the way Hardeep Puri addressed Epstein in his emails and the things he said. He called him Jeff. He called him my friend. He writes, have fun, not that you require any encouragement for that. And he says, are you back from your exotic island? Are you saying that this clearly suggests a friendship and an intimacy between Puri and Epstein that Puri has not admitted to?
Karan, you have dealt enough with these sort of, I don't want to use the word fixers, I'll use a kinder word such as wheeler dealers, who seem to think that nudge, nudge, wink, wink banter, this kind of boy talk. You've seen it. I see it all the time. And it's not an Indian phenomenon. It's an international phenomenon. There's a certain section of society, especially of men, that have this code where it's nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I mean, I may not do what you're doing. So Jeffrey, I may not be on the island, or I may not be sexually trafficking, but I know you're doing it. And you know what? It's okay. I'll keep the code. So this is very clear that he knew. Why would he tell Jeffrey, have fun? You're on the exotic island. Everyone knew what Jeffrey used his ranch, his Zorro ranch, and his island for. Everyone knew it. He was running a pedophilia racket. He was taking underage girls there who are children, by the way. Right? So he knew. He says, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. He says, not that you require. He says, Jeffrey has no doubt about Jeffrey's taste in people, and his instincts are even better. You're talking about a convicted pedophile who served jail time. This is exactly like Tom Pritzker, if you've seen the Chairman of Hyatt Hotels, who has resigned. And you see some of his in which Tom Pritzker is asked to help Jeffrey's girlfriend for a trip to Southeast Asia or something like that as part of Hyatt Hotels. And he says, why is she going to Southeast Asia? And Jeffrey replies, Tom, she's going to find another girlfriend for me. And he says, oh, may the force be with you. It's the same kind of nudge, nudge, wink, wink banter, but Tom Pritzker has resigned. And Hardeep Puri has not. Also, in the very first press conference Hardeep did, I think it was just post the 11th of February, his first sort of guns and fire press conference, he says, oh, by the way, when he was asked, but you knew he was a convicted pedophile, he says, no, he had pleaded guilty and he had been charged. He had been charged with an offense of sex with an underage woman. And I had doubts about it like other people. What rubbish is this? What is underage women? They're called children. It's a POCSO offense in this country. You didn't know that? And then he says, I had doubts. What exact doubts did you have? He had pleaded guilty. He had been convicted. He had served jail time. He was released. He was on the sex offenders list in the United States. Where were your doubts exactly?
In fact, the truth of the matter, and correct me if I'm making a mistake, when Puri met Epstein for the first time in 2014, Epstein had already served jail time. He had already been charged. He had already been convicted.
Correct. He had been released in 2009 from jail. He served 13 months of his 18-month sentence. And he was released in 2009.
Let me put this to you. Hardeep Puri was living and working in New York between 2009 and 2017, first as India's permanent representative to the United Nations, which means he was India's ambassador to the United Nations, and then with an affiliate body of the International Peace Institute. Is it at all possible that during those years he had no idea of Epstein's crimes and the fact that Epstein had served time in jail? Could it be possible that he just missed hearing that news altogether?
Oh, okay. So why was he, can I ask you a question? Why was he meeting Epstein? Why would he was a senior diplomat, right? India's permanent representative to the UN, or India's ambassador to the UN, is a pretty senior post in New York City. It's a senior post. He's a senior diplomat. He's then gone to work for some kind of, wheeling dealing, now disgraced body called the International Peace Institute, the head of which was Terje Rod-Larsen. Terje Rod-Larsen has since resigned in disgrace. His wife, Mona Yul, who was Norway's ambassador to Jordan and Iraq, has been fired over these links. So he worked in a body which was obviously doing all of this with Epstein. His boss was working closely with Epstein. Why would he go to meet Epstein? Who was Epstein? Why would an ex-diplomat, a senior person working with this so-called Peace Institute or Multilateral Institute, go to meet Epstein? Why would you go? If someone tells me, I'm an MP, Karan, let's go and meet X or Y or Z. Why would we think, okay, we are going there so he can introduce us to X or Y? Where does Epstein get his power from? Who is he? What was he going for? That's the question. He was said he was going to push digital India to some, look at his stories. He was going as one power broker to the other. The Modi's government had just come in. He had, I think, already joined the BJP or was about to. Modi's government had come in. We had an ambassador to the United States. We had Jaishankar, we had Navtej Sharma, we had somebody else. We had 3 ambassadors to the United States at that time. Had we required to push digital India, that too after 2015. Hardeep Puri says, I was pushing digital India in 2014 November to Reid Hoffman and to Epstein. Who were you as a private citizen to push digital India? And B, more important, how did you even know about digital India when it was inaugurated and announced only on July 1st?
Can I support the point you made? Here is the
Correct.
press release from the BJP issued on the 2nd of January 2014. I'll repeat that.
There you go.
2nd of January 2014.
So he was a member.
Hardeep Puri has joined the BJP. So he was a member of the BJP.
He was a card-carrying member of the BJP. He was a card-carrying member of the BJP. He was a member of this mumbo-jumbo International Peace Institute, whatever it was. And he was going with his boss, Thierry, who I assume introduced him to Epstein. He was going to meet Epstein and to do wheeling dealing with him. Who did he think who Epstein was?
Let me underline a point that I think you made. Correct me if I'm making a mistake, but during those years, Virginia Giuffre's court case was front page news in America. A leading diplomat would not have missed it. And second, the Daily Mail scandal had erupted. That too would have been well known.
Absolutely. He was in New York at the time. It was not that he was not in New York. He was in New York at the time. And remember one thing, Virginia Giuffre in 2009 filed a lawsuit. In 2011, the Daily Mail ran that big interview, and I remember it, where she had photographs that she was going with Epstein on a plane to the UK to cavort with Prince Andrew. There was a huge scandal. They carried these photos of Virginia Giuffre with Prince Andrew. It was front page news. It was front page in the Daily Post. You could not go in Manhattan when you go to buy your bread or your milk, or you go to DAG, or you go to Whole Foods, or you go anywhere. When you're checking out and you see the newspaper, you see the Post, you see all the newspapers, the rags looking at you. All of them had this on the cover. A. And B, after that, the Federal Bureau of Investigation interviewed Virginia Giuffre. They interviewed her. This was news everywhere. Everyone knew, everybody in New York knew who Epstein was.
So it's very hard to believe.
Bill Gates knew who Epstein was. Lawrence Summers knew who Epstein was. All of these people are apologizing, saying, we knew who he was. We should have distanced ourselves sooner.
So in a nutshell, what you're saying, it's very hard to believe that India's ambassador to the UN would not have known who Epstein was, who would not have known the background from which he came, who would not have known what he's accused of.
Hardeep Puri says himself, I knew who he was and what he was accused of, but I had doubts. What is doubts? You knew what you were accused of. You knew what he was doing. I mean, it's not even possible. What was he meeting Epstein about? And what was all this nudge, nudge, wink, wink?
Let's come to something else you referred to in your article for the week. You've been mentioning it a moment ago during this interview as well. The number of prominent people who were not involved in Epstein's sexual abuse and trafficking, but nonetheless resigned when it was revealed that they had used his tainted network despite knowing who he was. The list includes, as you mentioned earlier, Tom Pritzker, the chairman of Hyatt Hotels, Terje Rod-Larsen, Puri's former boss at the International Peace Institute, Peter Mandelson, who was Britain's ambassador to the UN and before that a member of Britain's government, both under Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. And he, in fact, didn't resign. He was sacked as ambassador to the United States. And it also includes Lawrence Summers, US Treasury Secretary, and Kathryn Reummler, Goldman Sachs' top lawyer. If they resigned, you believe Puri should resign as well. Is that right?
Look, you have people who were direct participants, such as the CEO of DP World. Okay, you have people you have Woody Allen, you have people who directly were involved in part of this trafficking. Even Bill Gates was, if you see the emails, where he's used his services to procure underage women, where people have his friends used Jeffrey's network to procure underage women. That was Jeffrey's power broking. On one side, he peddled in underage women and solicited their services and moved them onwards. And on the other side, he had the rich and the powerful who knew who he was, and they, through Epstein, also had access to all of this. That was the network. It's the oldest trick in the book. It's the oldest trick in the book, right? So there were people who were directly, physically participating in his escapades. So people like the DP World CEO, people like other movie stars, people like Bill Gates who used his services according to the emails. And then you had people who knew who he was, used his network, but did not physically participate in his solicitation or trafficking activities. So Lawrence Summers at that time was going through some kind of personal romantic situation and used Jeffrey Epstein as a sounding board for that. Lawrence Summers was the ex-US Treasury Secretary, was the ex-president of Harvard. He himself did not solicit women through Epstein, but he has stepped back from all commitments from public life. You have Tom Pritzker. Tom Pritzker did not use Epstein to solicit underage women or participated in anything, but he was aware of what Epstein was doing and used his network for other things. Tom Pritzker has stepped back. You had Kathryn Reummler, who is a woman who called Jeffrey Epstein uncle, and she is the top lawyer for Goldman Sachs. She has resigned. She did not take part physically, but because of her closeness to Epstein, she's resigned. So you see all of these people. Today you had Bill Gates, who was supposed to deliver the keynote address at the AI summit. I have no idea why the Modi government invited him after all of this, but he has stepped down today. He didn't deliver the keynote address today. Hours before the address, he decided that, I want the focus to be on the summit, not on me. He stepped down. Tom Pritzker said something in his resignation letter, the chairman of Hyatt. He said, I would like to protect the organization, that is Hyatt Hotels. I would like to protect the organization from my association with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, if a person who's a corporate leader, a billionaire heir, feels he has the need to protect Hyatt Hotels and its legacy, how does Hardeep Puri, who is unelected, who got whopped by Gurjeet Singh Aujla, my friend in Amritsar, when he stood for Lok Sabha. He got whopped by Aujla by over, I think, just about 99,000 votes. He got whopped. Even then, he came in as a minister via the back door. Everything in his life has got via the back door. Everything. He lost the elections. He has no right to be there. He then comes in via the back door, and he's
let's not get sidetracked on that.
Right.
Let's stick to the focus.
Right. But having said that, he is sitting in an unelected chair as a cabinet minister. He has to protect India and India's reputation from his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Somebody who's a corporate leader can see that. How can I don't want to use the word public representative, which is why I brought that context in, but a non-public representative sitting as a cabinet minister still has the same responsibility.
Let me put this to you. If Puri doesn't resign, and as you pointed out, so far he's shown no sign of doing so, should the Prime Minister sack him? And remember, before you answer, that Puri was a member of the BJP from the 2nd of January 2014. Earlier, I held up the BJP press release, which proves the point, which means right through the period he was meeting and writing to Epstein, he was doing so as a member of the BJP, not on behalf of the BJP, I'd add. We just don't know the answer to that, but he was a member of the BJP while that was happening.
Yeah, so where did he get his power from? Where was Puri peddling Digital India from? Who was telling him about Digital India, if that at all was what he was doing? It was definitely the government. It was definitely the government. There are many other card-carrying members of the BJP. Like I said, India had three ambassadors to the US, very powerful people. Jaishankar, who's now our foreign minister, and Navtej Sarna and somebody else in the middle. 3 ambassadors. How come their names are not in their files? If Epstein held the key and Epstein's contacts held the key to marketing digital India abroad, then what were our representatives fools that they didn't use his services?
So should the Prime Minister sack Puri if Puri doesn't resign?
Puri is part of a shameful, they're all in this. The Puri is shameless. He's wanting to brazen it out. Knowing the BJP who do this nudge, nudge, winking, wink, wink, the BJP has no sense of right and wrong. They have no sense of right and wrong, right? So what the BJP's probably told him was, your Rajya Sabha is up in November, just sit tight in your seat and we will not renew your Rajya Sabha, but you don't have to face the humiliation of resigning now.
But should
Puri
the
doesn't
Prime
realize
Minister, but
that his
that's
graceful
still not
exit
answering
could
my
be
question. Should the Prime Minister sack Puri?
200%, 200%, the Prime Minister should sack him, 200%. He's so shameless, Puri. He's still, the question is, you can't lie. Look at the way he's lying. And these are not lies that I, Mahua Moitra, are saying. You're saying you believe. These are documented. This is the Department of Justice that has released these files. This is not WhatsApp University. This isn't something the opposition made up. This is facts in black and white, open for the world to see. Puri is completely, yes.
In your eyes, what would be the message that is given to the country if Puri refuses to resign and the Prime Minister won't sack him?
The message is very simple, that we are a new political class who is brazen, who is arrogant, and who has no accountability to India's people. If we are sitting in power, we will do what we want and we don't owe anybody any answers. And whether everyone else across the world has a certain standard of morality in public life, that certainly does not apply to us. We are beyond all of that. It's because some other Bakat carrying member of the BJP the other day said that Modi is above questions. It's exactly the same kind of attitude. Modi is above questions, Hardeep Puri is above accountability. And therefore, if he doesn't resign, Modi should definitely ask him to resign to save themselves. They asked MJ Akbar resigned on his own, if you remember, on the back of the Me Too. MJ Akbar resigned.
Let me end by pointing this out to you and maybe to a lot of the audience who may not know it as yet. Earlier today, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was arrested by the British police. He happens to be the younger brother of the King of England. That is the extent to which the British are prepared to go to ensure that proper procedure and justice is obtained. Do you think anything similar could ever happen in India?
No, it couldn't happen in India, but Andrew is not the correct example here, because Andrew, there's so much photographic evidence. Andrew himself was a pedophile. So Andrew's been arrested for charges more serious than the others who were in the Epstein files, including Mr. Puri. So that's different. So Andrew, but the question is this, Keir Starmer, who is under immense pressure, he's a British Prime Minister. He's fired Peter Mandelson. He's also fired the advisor who advised him to appoint Peter Mandelson. Keir Starmer had nothing to do with the Epstein files. The advisor in the middle who advised him to appoint Mandelson had nothing to do with the Epstein files. But even then, they are facing this. So when you see these concentric circles, there are people who are not in the inner circle, but in the circles just outside. But because they need to protect wherever they are, their own institutions or their country from their association with Epstein, there are just three things. Did you know Epstein was a convicted pedophile, Mr. Puri? The answer is yes. Did you contact him and be in touch with him in spite of knowing this? Yes. While you were in touch with him, were you aware of his activities and did you condone them? Yes. There are only three questions to be answered, and the answer to all of them is yes. His position is untenable, Karan. He can bully and bluster and brazen it out, but he is absolutely sick in the mind if he thinks that his position is secure and that he should not resign.
Mahua Moitra, I thank you for the time you've given me. I thank you for joining me to explain to the audience the points you made in your column. And I'll repeat to the audience, that column will appear in the first March issue of the week. Thank you very much indeed. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.